Welcome into Williams-Brice Stadium for the Gamecocks and South Carolina State Bulldogs tonight. Andy Demetra, Brad Muller. Folks, we appreciate you sticking through some technical difficulties. Brad, sometimes you just can't control a blown transformer in the south end zone. So after the Spencer Lanning 30-yard field goal, his 10th straight, Trey Young will carry it out for the Bulldogs. The best in the championship subdivision in kick return yardage, and Young takes it out to the 31.
Well, it's been a little bit different than what South Carolina fans were expecting early on right now. Gamecocks with a turnover on their first possession, had a good drive going, but it stalled thanks to a couple of sacks and a penalty, a false start penalty. South Carolina State defense playing very well.
Malcolm Long, you see his numbers, the former South Carolina Mr. Football out of Gaffney High School, and you think that's not a blurred picture. He looks like Byron Leftwich right down to the number and the cannon arm. 6'3", he weighs 235 pounds, at least his listed weight. He's probably closer to 260. He'll spread out the field on 1st and 10. Hands off to his MEAC Offensive Player of the Year, Will Ford, who scampers near the marker, close to a first down. Will Ford, the guy the Gamecocks better be wary of.
Yeah, exactly. He needed 109 yards coming in for 4,000 for his career. Had his first 100-yard game of the season last week after having 8 of those last season.
Not bad for someone who was not All-State, did not make the Shrine Bowl roster out of Travelers Rest High School. But the Gamecocks know how potent a back he is. He's called a first down. Bulldogs with another carry. This time it keeps in the hands of Derek Wiley, the backup quarterback. But it's well read by the Gamecocks. Clifton Gathers on the tackle. We'll see some Derek Wiley. More a mobile quarterback and a more dynamic option for Buddy Pugh.
Gamecock defense has kept the pressure on throughout the evening so far in the first quarter. But South Carolina State hanging in there with their defense. A couple of good backs. You mentioned Will Ford, another one. Travell Jameson is another good one to watch.
And Nathan Pepper said as far as he's concerned, they have 2 SEC quality backs, and they're both to the hips of Wiley, who hands off to Ford. Across for just a couple. Gamecocks run defense played, I think, for the most part well against Ole Miss. They surrendered a couple of big runs, but it's hard to fault that kind of effort for the Gamecocks in the historic win over number 4 Ole Miss. We'll take a look at your starting lineups for the Bulldogs. Johnny Colbreth, an all-MEAC left tackle out of Monroe, Georgia. And the backfield headlined by Will Ford, the senior, who needs now less than 200 yards to become the Bulldogs' all-time leading rusher. South Carolina State needs 8 for the first down. And Wiley will keep it on the design keeper. He'll have the first down. That's something he can do. Long cannot do, and the Gamecocks were slow to react.
Yeah, Derek Wiley more like a running back, averaging more than 6 yards a carry coming into tonight, and he gives them that dual threat in the backfield.
6'1" freshman out of Rockingham, North Carolina. Buddy Pugh, the head coach of the Bulldogs, will get him from all over. Travell Jameson, the 6-foot senior running back, will be the featured back now for Wiley. You can see he brings some skill sets that Malcolm Long does not. He'll keep it himself, trying to follow the block of Jameson, but a nice ankle tackle by who else? Eric Norwood, who had such an historic night against Ole Miss, breaking the career sacks record. With the Gamecocks on top 3-0, here's your Carolina starters. Ladi Ajiboye, Cliff Matthews was overshadowed by Norwood last Thursday night, but he had a career game. We'll delve into him more. A special night for Eric Norwood and his family. We'll get to that in a moment. And then Chris Culliver anchors that secondary, which has been so solid all season long. Inside handoff up to the 39, a gain of 6 on second down for the Bulldogs, and that's Jameson. Those guys are interchangeable. We talk so much about Ford, the headliner, but it was Jameson who had more rushing touchdowns last year than Will Ford.
Yeah, he had 16 rushing touchdowns a year ago. Has 22 rushing touchdowns on his career.
Gamecocks will try to shake the cobwebs on offense here. 8:06 in the second quarter. They lead by 3, and the toss sweep goes to Kenny Miles. And Miles surges up for about 6. Kenny Miles, leading rusher for the Gamecocks the last two games. He's earned that opportunity.
Yeah, had 13 carries against Ole Miss last week, averaged 4 yards per carry. Does a nice job of finding a hole there. South Carolina State initially strung it out pretty well, but able to get ahead for a big gain on first down.
Garcia extends the handoff again to Miles, runs into his own man, but picks up the first down. I was talking with Miles after practice this week, and he's got a brother in 6th grade just beginning his football career. We'll get to that story in a moment. Gamecocks offensive line, some changes. Kyle Nunn gets the start over Jarrell King at left tackle. And also Quentin Richardson, the right tackle, out with the flu bug. Miles gets his first career start in the backfield. Jason Barnes starts over Torrey Gurley. And Garcia now on the scramble, and a dangerous throw across his body in coverage, aiming for DeMarco. Sails incomplete. Getting back to Miles, however, his brother, I told you, Brad, 6th grade, just starting his football career. Defensively for South Carolina State, anchored by that man right there, number 4, David Irby. We'll get to him as you see him with Julius Wilkerson, the middle linebacker out of the town of Gaffney. And Phillips Adams had an interception against Carolina back in 07. Miles the handoff, which gives us the opportunity to finish the story. He says he's been trying to impart all of his wisdom as a college football player unto his brother, and now when he goes home, his brother says, "Hey Kenny, I was watching the game. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Shouldn't you have done this?"
Everybody's a critic, right?
Everybody's a critic. Yeah, Kenny Miles created that monster. Gamecocks need 7 for the first down. Only a Spencer Lanning field goal to this point. Garcia battling bruised ribs. He took that shot just above his left waist in the Ole Miss game. Has protection, loads it up. Great ball. Is it hauled in? No. Popped loose as the ball looked to be in the breadbasket of the wide receiver. But credit Philip Adams, the Rock Hill High School graduate, with the breakup.
Mo Brown just couldn't come down with it, and the Gamecocks haven't been able to get anything down the field all evening. South Carolina State secondary has done a nice job limiting South Carolina to just short passes here. This is one of the longer attempts of the evening. As you take another look at it here, Brown may have jumped a little early and just couldn't bring it down with him.
And though Adams was in the vicinity, that was Devon Quattlebaum, junior linebacker from Ridge Springs, South Carolina, in coverage to jar it loose. That's a catch Mo Brown, the senior, probably should have made. Lanning trying to pin the Bulldogs deep and successful in that endeavor at the 11-yard line. So again, the Gamecocks lackadaisical on offense as they welcome in the Bulldogs from Orangeburg, 35 miles down the road, hoping to leave them with some unpleasant experiences. First and 10 Gamecocks after the Gilmore punt return, and now Jarvis Giles, another freshman, cutting to the outside. Giles was quiet in the Ole Miss game to the puzzlement of some Gamecock fans, but getting some snaps here early.
He only had 2 carries against Ole Miss after I think had over 100 yards in the week before against Florida Atlantic, but another good option is a guy who can make guys miss, as you saw in the first down play.
Gamecocks hurry in, no huddle, and Giles again finding space to the 30. Giles trying to get the block from Jeffrey to the 10. Does he stay in bounds? He dives. He'll be marked out at the 6. Giles almost busted it for 6.
One of the longest runs of the year by a Carolina tailback. I think one of the longest runs from scrimmage was by Mo Brown on an end around a couple of weeks ago. But that's what Carolina's been missing in its backfield the last couple of years. A home run threat, and that's what they're hoping both Miles and Giles can be. Good blocking up front as you take a look at it here, and it's just Giles reading the blocks, get some blocks downfield by his receiver, Alshon Jeffrey, and you see him just step out of bounds there at the 6-yard line.
Just couldn't walk the tightrope for the freshman from Tampa, Florida. He'll get a breather. Brian Maddox, the junior, the standing tail behind Stephen Garcia. He gets the handoff and is upended, and that's David Irby, the former Rock Hill High School product and the MEAC Player of the Week from a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, he's a good one. Their leading tackler has 22 solo tackles coming into tonight, second in the MEAC in tackles. Also very active in the pass rush, has 6 career sacks.
You wouldn't know it from watching this Bulldog defense, but they're without their top tackler from 2008, Marshall McFadden. He broke his wrist in the preseason. DeMarco, the fullback, and again, Brian Maddox is in there. LaCorn is in the slot. On second down and goal, Garcia looking for the fade. That's not there, and he'll heave it over the top of the back line. A flag is down.
In the secondary for South Carolina State, done a good job tonight. Obviously, can't go long here when you're this close in, but they've done a good job of bottling up the South Carolina wide receivers. Carolina's had to settle to going to the backs out of the backfield more times than not tonight.
We'll get the word on the
offside. Number 45 of the defense. 5-yard penalty in the previous spot and put it half the distance. Second down.
Marcus James, the senior, transfer from Tulane, the guilty party, and the Gamecocks will get second and goal, half the distance at the 2. Steve Spurrier this week really lamented his team's lack of red zone scoring. Here we are in the red zone again, and the Gamecocks have gotten 3 many more times, and they've gotten 7. They know that has to change.
Yeah, the Gamecocks coming in 16 out of 22 in the red zone, but only 9 touchdowns coming in tonight. That's last in the SEC.
How about 2 fullbacks? Ingram blocking for DeMarco. Stretches out. He lost the football. South Carolina State recovers. And they're going downfield with a convoy. But it looks like the line judge is stepping DeMarco down inside the 1.
As looked like from up here, his knee was down as he tried to stretch it across, and that's when the ball came out as he hit the ground. And Bulldogs didn't hear the whistle, but Gamecocks trying to reward DeMarco. Does a lot of the grunt work up front with the blocking. Millhouse thought he had 6.
Millhouse thought he was going to take it to the house. Yeah. The former starter at the Citadel from Summerville, South Carolina, but instead DeMarco, the ball ruled down by contact. So it'll be 3rd down and goal. How about that? Ingram, who's a defensive tackle by trade, but we've also seen him line up at fullback.
Is under further review.
Buddy Pugh will want to review because of the technical difficulties here in the stadium earlier tonight. Replay wasn't available. Looks pretty conclusive there, Brad. The ball was down by contact.
Yeah, it looks like the ground caused the fumble there. I don't think that'll be overturned.
Buddy Pugh hoping for a stop. His Bulldogs among the best in 1AA in tackles for loss. They'd love one here on 3rd down and goal. And Garcia on the plunge. Does he ram it through? He does. Touchdown, Gamecocks. Not the prettiest of drives, Brad Muller, but 6 is 6, and the Gamecocks widen their lead.
A red zone touchdown, second rushing touchdown of the year for Stephen Garcia. Got a good block from his center, Garrett Anderson, in the left side of his line, and just able to get it through for 6.
So Stephen Garcia tucking it against those bruised ribs. That's when you close your eyes like you're in a dark room and just trying to find a crease. Landing for the extra point to make it 10-0 here. After a sluggish start offensively for the Gamecocks, now maybe that was the smelling salts the Garnet Black needed. 2:23 to play here in half number 1. Last tune-up for the Gamecocks before SEC play begins again, and Steve Spurrier's crew has a 10-0 lead on the Garcia plunge. Gamecocks on the Stephen Garcia 3rd down and goal sneak for the score. 10-0 Gamecocks as we close in on halftime here from Williams-Brice. Short kick by Lanning, fielded by Trey Young. Out of Charleston, ramrodded at the 25, and Shaq Wilson stands him up. Good special teams tackle by the Gamecocks against a Bulldog kickoff return unit that's the best in the championship subdivision in kickoff returns. As you look at the scoring drive, Brad.
And the Gamecocks set it up with their defense playing very well in pursuit, getting good field position throughout the game, and good to see South Carolina finally finish a drive after coming up short earlier.
That said, Stephen Garcia, he got the touchdown. As you look at now Malcolm Long re-entering. Garcia, though, has still looked out of rhythm in this first half. Some of that's to be expected as he got very limited snaps in practice with those bruised ribs.
Also getting a lot of pressure. Credit South Carolina State's defense up front.
Long handoff. Will Ford, MEAC Offensive Player of the Year, did not look like it there. Again, trying to test the edge, but that's where the Gamecocks and Clifton Gathers have excelled all year.
Yeah, Gathers in on the tackle. Nathan Pepper also in there as well. And again, South Carolina's defensive line, even though it's banged up and they've got some size in there, they all move very well.
That is their first.
Buddy Pugh and the Bulldogs hanging tough with Carolina, as they did 2 years ago in their first ever meeting. On 2nd down and 10. Again, the handoff to Ford. Jitterbugging off the left side before the tackle made by Allen.
With the score still close ball game as it is as we get closer to halftime, you can still use Will Ford. He can still be a big part of your offense.
Out of Travelers Rest, South Carolina. Hard to believe he was not All-State nor a Shrine Bowl invitee out of Travelers Rest High School. First down and 10. Long looking inside, complete at the 5. Close to a first down, but the clock will move. Buddy Pugh will need to burn his second time out of the half. Best scoring chance for the Bulldogs. They throw end zone and just too tall. Looking for Terrence Smith, the redshirt senior from Aiken. And now third down, and an interesting strategy here for Buddy Pugh. One timeout left. You don't need the end zone, Brad Muller, just 1 yard. What do?
Yeah, exactly. You've got an opportunity as you take a look at it here. This was just a quickly designed play. Good leaping ability by Terrence Smith, but 2 defenders there unable to come down with it.
And to thread it through the eye of the needle, but unsuccessful. Best scoring opportunity of the half for the Bulldogs right before halftime as they keep grinding ahead. Handoff. Long keeps it, leaps, and he's in. Touchdown, Bulldogs.
Malcolm Long with his first rushing touchdown of the season. Again, not known as a rushing quarterback, just looking at his numbers coming in for negative yardage, but he did a lot on that drive with his legs as well as with his arm.
All the folks who have made the drive 34 miles from Orangeburg are ecstatic with 17 seconds remaining in this second quarter. Gamecock fans may have flashbacks of the Florida Atlantic game giving up this late score. Blake Erickson, the sophomore from Pensacola, for the extra point. Nearly blocked by the Gamecocks, but that sails through. And with 17 seconds remaining, Brad, it's a new ball game.
Yeah, exactly. This is playing out exactly how things played out in the first half against Florida Atlantic a couple of weeks ago. South Carolina's offense really just non-existent here in the first half.
We'll take a look one more time. Malcolm Long, the former South Carolina Mr. Football. With plays like that, you know I earned the trophy. He earned 6. Bulldogs down by 3.
This is it, signing day. Every program in the country wanted this young man.
Here he's coming to the stage now.
After considering many schools and talking it over with my parents, I've decided to study international business at the University of South Carolina.
Not surprising, South Carolina has the top program in the country. He's going to do big things now.
Go Gamecocks!
Coke's secret formula. Only 2 guys in the world know it. If something happened to one, the formula would be lost forever. And then, cookouts would be catastrophic. Santa would be sleepy. Summers would be sweltering, and a hole would tear right through the universe. Thankfully, the formula is safe, and so is the world.
This is Riley's family.
Cooper family,
Robertson family.
Nelson family, Stewart family.
Mr. Riley? Hi, I'm Dr. Stuck. I'm your wife's cardiologist. We're done with...
Spurrier might not be in the sunniest of dispositions heading into halftime. Malcolm Long touchdown plunge makes it Gamecocks 10, Bulldogs 7. The bouncer fielded at the 15, and Chris Culliver outside to the 35. Well, Gamecocks have talked all week about maintaining momentum. A flag down, by the way. Not sleepwalking or looking ahead to Kentucky, and they just have not cleared the cobwebs tonight, Brad.
Yeah, haven't been sharp, and you got to give credit to South Carolina State, especially on defenses. They've not given up really any big plays to South Carolina. They've done a nice job of disguising some blitzes, putting some pressure on Stephen Garcia, not giving up the big plays. Of course, their offense gets the touchdown.
Number 49 of the receiving team blocking the back. 10-yard penalty from the end of the run. First down.
Matt Moore, our head referee tonight. Gamecocks will likely take a knee. And Eric Wolford, speaking of guys who might not be in the best temperament, he's chomping that gum like he can't wait to get his hands on his offensive line in the locker room.
Yeah, you can understand a little bit of a letdown after a big win like that against Ole Miss, but then you also have to understand this is a game South Carolina needs to win.
Yes. 9 plays, 75 yards, and look at that. Only 2:06 off the clock, orchestrated by Buddy Pugh and the South Carolina State offense. They were getting ready to head to the locker rooms, head off the sidelines.
Took a knee, but apparently somebody may have moved a little bit quickly there.
We'll sort it all out here with Matt Moore.
Before the play, the defense had 12 men on the field, substitution infraction, 5-yard penalty from the previous spot, remains first down. At least put 7 seconds on the game clock.
Now, they might have had 20 men on the field for all we know. Steve Spurrier complimented Buddy Pugh's defense this week. He said they have a lot of schemes, a lot of zone blitzes. They disguise well. So from that standpoint, they resemble an SEC defense. Bryce Sherman, he is the standing tail. He gets the handoff, bouncing outside. Bryce Sherman, boy, he's an electric little guy, and he motors past midfield, but that will do it for the first half of play. Gamecocks with a letdown defensively inside of that last minute, allowing the South Carolina State touchdown. A Stephen Garcia sneak, a Spencer Lanning field goal, the only offense for the Gamecocks. Halftime in this interstate battle in Columbia.
Brian, is we didn't see a whole lot of offense in the first half, but we did see a little bit as the Gamecocks right now holding on to a 10-7 first half lead, as we'll take a look at some of the highlights in the first half of play in a moment. And really, Brian, the story again, both defenses very strong.
Yeah, well, obviously South Carolina's defense ranked 4th in the SEC. We expected this from them, but I think it's surprising that the SC State defense has really held South Carolina in check. They really haven't been able to get anything going in the passing game. They do have 105 yards rushing in the first half, but for an SC State defense to come in here and do this to South Carolina was impressive.
Yes, South Carolina State actually outgaining the Gamecocks by 10 yards as we take a look at the first half highlights. The Gamecocks' lone touchdown drive started off with a 33-yard gain by the freshman out of Tampa, Florida. That's Jarvis Giles as he takes it inside the 5. And that would set up this Stephen Garcia plunge into the end zone. The Gamecocks with the lead at that point. But South Carolina State responding. Malcolm Long, a very solid first half. He dives into the end zone. And all of a sudden, South Carolina State is on the board. The Gamecocks with an earlier Spencer Lanning 30-yard field goal. And that's really the difference in this ball game thus far, 10-7.
Yeah, you see there that South Carolina State actually has outgained South Carolina in this football game. And a lot of it has to do with Malcolm Long. He's been really, really good in the first half. You see the stats here. Obviously, the turnover early in the game by South Carolina had something to do. But South Carolina has been able to rush the ball a little bit. But the difference you see in the passing yardage, South Carolina State and Malcolm Long have been able to really push the ball down the field a little bit, especially in that last drive. And the stat that really jumps out at you, 44 yards passing for Steve Spurrier and the University of South Carolina against these Bulldogs.
I think a lot of people looking at that score probably would think turnovers have been a huge factor, but again, only one, as you see. We'll take a timeout here when we come back. Second half action coming your way from Columbia. Brian. As we get ready for the second half of play, quarterbacks in the first half, I think that number would surprise a lot of people, Brian. Malcolm Long really outplaying Stephen Garcia.
Well, Malcolm Long coming into this football game was red hot. He's been playing well this season, but the surprising number here is 44 yards of passing for Steve Spurrier in the South Carolina offense. They have to get something going in the second half to win this football game.
The Bulldogs will get it first. Adam Yates will kick it away for the Gamecocks. Steve Spurrier, well, he might have his work cut out for him here tonight. The temperatures have dropped, but still a little perspiration going on the Gamecocks sideline as the Bulldogs have come to play. Touchback here. State will take over at the 20-yard line. Another amazing thing about the first half is that the guy that we highlighted, Will Ford, who's their all-everything running back, he was really bottled up. And so instead, it's been the passing game, Brian, that's led the way for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, Will Ford is the engine that drives this South Carolina State offense, but he was held to 21 yards on the ground in the first half. But South Carolina State was creative. They found ways to move the football there at the end and got a big drive and touchdown. This is a critical drive, I think, for South Carolina State to establish their tempo in the second half and say, we can win this football game.
Certainly have more confidence than they probably had going in. Long looks one way, fires the other, but that's a one-hopper incomplete. It'll be second down and 10. The Bulldogs coming in undefeated, 3-0, ranked 14th in the FCS poll. They have never defeated a Division 1A opponent, and obviously would love to make some history here tonight. The Gamecocks fresh off a victory over Ole Miss, and a victory would give the Gamecocks a good chance of cracking the top 25. Second down, 10 to the ground game, and a good pop there by Darian Stewart. Gain of 3.
You got to think that at halftime, Steve Spurrier had a message for this South Carolina team that we have not played our best football. We have to take advantage of our opportunities in the second half to put this game away. But you got to be happy if you're on the other side of the field. And Buddy Pugh, with these guys coming out playing hard in the first half, giving themselves an opportunity to compete on the highest stage here tonight.
South Carolina State 4 of 9 on third down. Long out of the shotgun. Heavy pursuit, and the pass is wide of the mark, and the Bulldogs will have to punt it away.
I think Malcolm Long got introduced to number 40 right there. Eric Norwood, he is the all-everything defensive end / linebacker for South Carolina. He is the motor on this defense, and you're going to see a lot of him probably in the second half if they keep throwing the ball from the pocket.
Yeah, Eric Norwood was kind of quiet in that first half. He's not only their best defensive player, he's the energy. He's the spark leading the SEC with a half a dozen sacks this year. Punt on the way from Lee Manley. Spiraling kick, but not a whole lot of distance on this one as it sails out of bounds. Very good field position for the Gamecocks when we come back. South Carolina on top, 10-7 here from Columbia.
Your pizza delivery guy.
Crowd enjoying the action thus far. South Carolina leading South Carolina State 10-7, a close ball game here in the third quarter of play as the Gamecocks trying to find their way on offense. Stephen Garcia has been very quiet thus far. Here is Kenny Miles, the redshirt freshman, finding an alley on the left side, keeps the legs churning past the 35 and down to the 34-yard line before Phillip Adams trips him up. Stephen Garcia in the last ball game against the Ole Miss Rebels. Brian, this is a big-time lick he took.
Yeah, you're going to see, Ole Miss plays a physical style of defense, and that's a hit that you're going to take in the SEC. This is a tough conference, and you've got to be able to deal with that, and you see him on the sideline struggling, but that hit seemed to take its effect on him.
Yeah, just 8 of 22 after he took the shot. Looked a little bit dazed in that ball game, and there was some concern that there'd be any lingering effects as you see the numbers before and after the hit. One thing that Steve Spurrier told us, Brian, that was really interesting, he said, if anything good comes out of it, he might be less likely to leave the pocket. He wants him to stay in the pocket more.
He really does. Talking to him yesterday, sometimes Stephen Garcia, because he is so talented athletically, will get out of the pocket and run. Unfortunately, he runs a little bit too soon. He's got open receivers down the field, and Coach Spurrier was telling us he really wants him to stand in the pocket and deliver down the field and lead this football team in that direction. And that's what he's going to have to do the rest of this season if they're going to be competitive in the SEC.
Steve Spurrier, a perfect 37-0 against non-BCS schools in his career. He revolutionized the way football was played in the SEC with the passing game, and now he's trying to revolutionize this program. It's been a 500 program for 100 years. He's trying to take him to the next level. Always easier said than done in a league like the SEC. But when we spoke with him, Brian, he was very optimistic about the recruiting and the future of this program.
Well, he really did. And last week was a huge win for Steve Spurrier in this South Carolina program, beating Ole Miss. They were ranked number 4 in the country. It's the first time they've ever beat a top 5 ranked team at home here in Columbia. So they're trying to build some momentum off of that win from last year, but they can't fall asleep tonight.
2nd down and 9. That's Kenny Miles behind DeMarco in the eye. Garcia backing up, still backing, finally tosses to DeMarco, who is cut down, a loss of a couple on the play.
Well, you see a little bit of the athletic ability of Stephen Garcia. Tremendous pressure by this defensive front from South Carolina State. They get back there, they give away 50 pounds to this South Carolina offensive line, but Garcia just gives a little ground and finds his back DeMarco for a good gain.
Gamecocks in a very familiar position tonight. 3rd down. It's 3rd down and 12. South Carolina 3 of 7 on 3rd down. 2 receivers set. Garcia unloads, completes it to Mo Brown at the 25, and he'll have a 1st down. Phillip Adams on the tackle, the senior out of Rock Hill.
Well, you see a little bit of the Stephen Garcia in the pocket. When he has a chance to stand and deliver the football and get his weight going back to forward, he's very accurate and has a strong arm. The issue is when he gets pressure, he throws off his back foot, and that's what he's trying to avoid tonight.
Garcia 4-3 as a starter. Really had a rough finish to the 2008 season, particularly in the Outback Bowl. Has showed a lot more maturity in this his redshirt sophomore campaign. On 1st down, looking deep, and his receiver slipped and fell. That was Dion LaCorn, the intended target, but he lost his footing.
Yeah, they had an opportunity there for a play down the field, and just got his feet tangled up. But this is a big stand here, a big opportunity for South Carolina State. South Carolina's in field goal range now. To hold them to a field goal right here in a 1-possession game would be big for this defense.
You see Buddy Pugh, former Gamecock assistant coach, former player for the Bulldogs, as South Carolina goes to the ground game, and it's Kenny Miles taking it to the end zone. 22 yards for the freshman, his 1st career touchdown. .59", 183-pounder out of Lawrenceville, Georgia, who is making a push for more playing time, and it's runs like that that'll get him the rock more often. So the Gamecocks find pay dirt for the 2nd time tonight. They will try to stretch the lead to 10. That's a great feeling for Kenny Miles. Steve Spurrier telling us earlier in the week tonight was going to be the Miles and Giles show. Brian Maddox had been the starter before this game, but it's been more of the freshmen tonight. Jarvis Giles and Kenny Miles, both freshmen and both very promising running backs.
He showed a burst right there to get up through the line of scrimmage and turned on the jets, and nobody could catch him.
Spencer Lanning, the junior, on for the extra point. It's up and on the board. So Steve Spurrier can breathe a little bit easier. The lead now 10 for the Gamecocks here from Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia.
I think of value, I think of Wrangler.
The Gamecocks now on top 17-7 in a game where points have been hard to come by. 1st career touchdown for Kenny Miles. Certainly a great feeling for that young man, and probably the first of many, as they believe he can be a good one. Back to receive. This is Trey Young at the 25. Looking for an alley. He's got one. Past midfield and shoved down to the turf inside the 40. Well, Brian Griese, that last touchdown, some great blocking to pave the way for Kenny Miles.
Yeah, really good execution here by South Carolina. You see the center Anderson and the fullback get up on the 2nd level, and then Kenny Miles does the rest. Otis Key misses a tackle, but that's Marion Barber like there, getting off those, bouncing off those and getting in the end zone. And the hair, too.
You know, the coaches talk about Kenny Miles. He's not the biggest back. He's not the fastest back. but the guy just has a will and a way of ripping off some big yards and big plays. 17-7 our score. I'm not sure what the breakage in the action is for here. It's like
offside on the kickoff team. That 5-yard penalty will be tacked on at the end of the run. First down.
Yeah, there you go. 5 more yards. So the Bulldogs, by far their best field position of the night inside the 35-yard line.
Well, a couple of penalties against South Carolina. You kick the ball off, and before you know it, State has the ball on their 35-yard line. You can't make these kind of mistakes for South Carolina.
Long going to keep it himself, and a penalty flag thrown by the umpire. Usually that's holding here. Now, we've seen plenty of Malcolm Long. We have not seen Derek Wiley, which is somewhat surprising, the other quarterback that the Bulldogs use from time to time.
I think Malcolm Long right here has an opportunity to take control of this game a little bit and not allow South Carolina to get too much distance between them. They've got great field position. You've got 3 points in the bag.
Holding, number 65 of the offense. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. First down.
Do something positive here. Get to the 25-yard line. But you can't start with a penalty. Number 65 right there with the hold. You can't do that. And that's just effort right there. So lack of effort. You got to be able to get your body in position to avoid those penalties.
Gave old Nathan Pepper a bear hug to the ground. 5th penalty of the night for the Bulldogs. That backs them up now. First down and 20. Long. Actually, that is the first time that we have seen Derek Wiley tonight. Eric Norwood with the tackle. Well, after making a serious statement with a victory at Dover, defending champion Jimmy Johnson keeps his sights set on current points leader and ageless wonder Mark Martin. The chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup continues at Kansas. Coverage beginning Sunday at 1 Eastern on ABC. 2nd and 13. Malcolm Long back in the game.
2nd and 13. Just want to get half of it back. You know, you don't need to get all of this in one go. Just get half of it. Get to a manageable 3rd and short situation.
Long delivers a strike, and it's dropped. Intended for Thomas Williams, the redshirt freshman out of Taylor, South Carolina. A couple of drops tonight by the Bulldog wide receivers, but Malcolm Long has looked very sharp overall.
Yeah, right here, Eric Norwood. You see him rush the passer right here. He drops off and gets in the lane and forces Malcolm Long to throw a bad football, but that's all Eric Norwood right there. He rushes the passer. He's strong against the run. He also can drop in coverage, which makes him the prototypical outside linebacker in the 3-4 defense.
3rd down and 13 yards to go. Long surveys, fires, complete. An open target at the 21. That's number 10, Terrence Smith, the senior out of Aiken, who had a big catch in the first half.
That's a big play right there by Malcolm Long. Standing in the pocket, you got Eric Norwood rushing around the edge. You got 2 guys blocking him. Step up into the pocket and deliver that football for a big 3rd down for State.
16 yards on the hookup. And now Long goes to the bench, and Derek Wiley, the talented freshman out of Rockingham, North Carolina, comes in. He'll keep it himself, and he's lassoed down from behind by Alani Ajiboye. I'll tell you what, South Carolina State is hanging around, Brian.
They are stubborn, aren't they? I mean, I think they reflect their head coach, Buddy Pugh. And listen, they came here, they just didn't want to play well. They came here to win this football game. You got to give them credit. And right now, they're in a good position.
Now, Buddy Pugh says he might have his best team yet. Last year's team won the MEAC, went 8-0 in their conference, and made it to the playoffs. First time in over 2 decades that State got there. Nothing doing on that play as Devin Taylor, the talented freshman out of Buford, blows it up.
Yeah, Ellis Johnson, a defensive coordinator from South Carolina, finally said enough is enough. We're going to bring some pressure from the edge. And Derek Wiley had no chance on that play. But at this area of the football field, it's blitz heaven. You're right on the fringe of the red zone. Really, there's no risk for the defense. If there's any opportunity to blitz, it's right now at this situation.
Bulldogs have been solid on 3rd down tonight, 5 out of 11. Malcolm Long, the quarterback, out of the gun. Has time. Looking deep and in and out of the hands of Chris Culliver. My goodness, he had it right in the crosshairs. And what did Ellis Johnson tell us, Brian? Too many drops by the secondary.
Well, this was a tough play for the DB here, Culliver, because Whitlock, number 12, comes in and breaks up the pass. But you see here, Long is just late on that throw, and you may get away with that in Division I AA, but in the SEC, that's going to be an interception every time. 5 drop interceptions last week against Ole Miss, 3 against the Georgia Bulldogs. It's been frustrating for Ellis Johnson and company, as you can see right there. Field goal is blocked. Blocked by Eric Norwood. Who else? Eric Norwood, out of Ackworth, Georgia, blocks the kick. What else must this kid want to do, you know? He had a partial block of a kick last week against Ole Miss, and Shane Beamer, the son of Frank Beamer, loves to put this kid in position to make plays. He just stepped over the leg of the wingman right there. You have to block number 40. I think it's bad coaching right there. You want to block number 40.
If there's one guy you want to make sure you got at least 1, maybe 2 jerseys in front of, it's that man, Eric Norwood, who always shows up big in the big moments. And particularly at night, he always seems to have a flair for the dramatics. And who knows, we might be talking about that blocked field goal at the end of the game. Penalty flags on the first play of this drive.
Well, you got a quick look at that graphic, but he also is the active leader in sacks in the SEC, as well as tackle for loss.
Number 49, 5-yard penalty from the previous spot, remains first down.
That's Antoine Kerr, the guilty party.
There you go. He holds a school record in both of these, but he's the active leader in both, and he is just a do-everything for the South Carolina Gamecocks. He's by far their best player.
He is 8th all-time in SEC history with 28 sacks as the Gamecocks going back to the ground game, and this time it's the other freshman, Jarvis Giles. Giles, the SEC Freshman of the Week, after rushing for over 100 yards against Florida Atlantic. It's a new stable of backs for Steve Spurrier. For years, it was the Mike Davis, Corey Boyd show, and now you've got Giles, Miles, the 2 freshmen, and Brian Maddox, the junior, as well. 2nd down and a yard for the Gamecock offense, which has heated up here a bit in the 3rd quarter. Garcia with all day. Now runs out right. Little cutback and dives for the first down. He'll have it near the 40.
It's a smart play here by Stephen Garcia. You know, I think Coach Spurrier wanted to get a big chunk down the field. He had Torrey Gurley breaking to the post, but he wasn't there. Double covered, and it's a good job by Garcia, buying a little bit of time, extending the football play. That's what Steve Spurrier likes about this kid. But then when it's not there, just get positive yards. Don't make a mistake. Don't throw across your body back to the middle of the field. Eliminate those mistakes, and you're going to grow.
On first down, little toss play to Giles. Giles finds his way into a 5-yard gain. Jarvis Giles, a very nifty runner, 5'11", 183-pounder out of Tampa, Florida.
The MO for Steve Spurrier coach teams has always been score a lot of points, but early in this football year, this South Carolina team has been winning with defense, and tonight giving up 7 points is no different.
2nd down and 5. Back to Giles. Look at that jitterbug move. Trying to find some room on the outside, but can't turn the corner. He did everything he could, but minimal daylight. It'll set up a 3rd down and short. Antoine Kerr on the stop.
You know, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and I don't think Jay Graham, the running back coach right there in the red hat, is very happy with Jarvis Giles. As soon as he saw that play, he got Brian Maddox in the game. Get out of there, kid.
Here is Brian Maddox. Brian Maddox keeps the legs turning, lowers the shoulder, and staggers to the 40-yard line. 13-yard pickup for the junior out of Anderson.
That's more like it. Jay Graham's on the sideline talking to Giles, saying, see that? This is the way, north and south. Get one cut, get up, in and out, and get some positive yardage. But that horizontal running game doesn't work in high school, college, or the NFL. It's too tough.
Maddox, the closest thing to a veteran, although he didn't get a whole lot of carries his first 2 years, but he is a junior. He's got 5 touchdowns on the year. That's tied for second in the SEC. 5.5 to go, third quarter. Garcia. Coxon fires deep toward the corner, caught, and a touchdown. 40 yards, Mo Brown. Mo Brown, the senior, coming up with the big play. Now, Mo Brown has been in this program for 4 years. Kind of an up and down career, gets a big one right here.
What a great throw here by Stephen Garcia. Stands in the pocket and puts this ball where Mo Brown can go up and get it. Great play by the captain of this offense, Mo Brown, and good to see.
The extra point is hammered home by Spencer Lanning. And the Gamecock offense starting to catch fire here in the third quarter. South Carolina with the lead, 24-7, as Garcia puts it on the money. With Brian Griese, I'm Mike Morgan. Columbia, South Carolina, a rocking Saturday night as the Gamecock offense has heated up. 24-7 our score. The last scoring drive, probably the most impressive of the night for the Gamecock offense. 6 plays, 74 yards, capped off by the 40-yard touchdown reception by Mo Brown. Trey Young on the return down at the 23-yard line.
That last drive is the way that Steve Spurrier wants to operate. Rush the football, get him into a man-to-man system, and then taking advantage of taking a shot down the field to your captain, Mo Brown, his second touchdown of his career. But that touchdown was set up by the running game earlier in the drive. They rushed the ball 4 times for 44 yards, forcing State to come up and try to stop the run with an extra defender and play man coverage on the back end. And that's when you take your shot down the field. Perfect throw by Stephen Garcia.
On first down, pass is caught at the 25-yard line. That's Thomas Williams, the redshirt freshman, on the grab. Now, you saw the numbers on the rushing yardage tonight. The Gamecocks 4th in the SEC running the ball. That's really been the difference. That's been the most encouraging thing for this offense, which has finished dead last in the SEC the last 2 years. Last year averaging under 3 yards a carry. And Brian, as a former quarterback, you know if you've got no running game, that's a lot of heat on the quarterback.
That was really, really a tough way to go about operating last year. Just can't win that way.
Will Ford shoved out of bounds. A modest gain. Yeah, the rushing yards the last 2 years for the Gamecocks. Again, a little more than 100 2 years ago. Last year, 94.1. Both times that was dead last in the SEC. And that's been the most frustrating thing. And a common misnomer about Steve Spurrier, Brian, is that he likes to run as well as pass. Usually it's about 50-50.
Yeah, but if you're only averaging 2.9 yards a carry, I'd throw it too, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Bulldogs 5 of 12 on third down. This is a 3rd down and 4. Malcolm Long making sure everybody's on the same page. Going to try the draw. Big hole left side. Ford has the marker and a couple of more. 8 yards for the senior, Will Ford.
This is the spread offense at its best. Malcolm Long's going to read the end, give it to Ford. A big hole on the left side, and that's the big chunks that you need in this offense. A lot of people think the spread offense is a lot of passing, quick passing, throw the ball. A lot of it is being able and successful to run the ball out of the shotgun, and that's what Will Ford gives this offense.
They're going to need to continue to get more productivity out of Will Ford. They go to him again. That is grappled down from behind, a 4-yard pickup. Will Ford, the reigning MEAC Offensive Player of the Year, averaging over 5 yards a carry. This is a guy that certainly could play in the SEC. You heard a number of Gamecock defensive players and the coaching staff say Will Ford is an SEC caliber back.
Yeah, we talked with Joe Blackwell, the offensive coordinator of State, yesterday, and he said this kid is tough, he's smart, he can block and catch out of the backfield. That's what you want.
This time they go to Travell Jamison, senior out of Greenville. He actually led the team with touchdowns last year with 16. So pretty good 1-2 punch in the Bulldog backfield.
Yeah, but Will Ford is, like we were talking about, he had 26 touchdowns a year ago, and through his career he's had 26 touchdowns. So he's catching the ball out of the backfield, he's running the ball. He does everything for this South Carolina State offense.
6 of 13 for the Bulldogs on third down. Very manageable here, third down and 5. Gamecocks bring the blitz, passes through the hands, another drop. That's Trey Young, their top receiver, but he couldn't haul it in, and the Bulldogs will have to punt it away.
We had a turning point here for these SC State Bulldogs. This game could get out of hand in a hurry, and those are plays you got to make. Trey Young is usually a reliable receiver. Malcolm Long read the blitz, delivered the ball on a key third and medium, and Trey Young wasn't able to convert. Now they put their defense in a tough position. They just got off the field.
And they're not getting much from the punting unit, only 27 yards per punt. Lee Manley gets a good bounce. It's fielded at the 30. Now the 40. Past midfield. Inside the 40, Stephon Gilmore, the highly touted freshman out of South Point High School in Rock Hill, South Carolina, galloping 35 yards on the return.
Stephon Gilmore is a true freshman, was a quarterback in high school. Now they've moved him to DB, but you can see the athleticism of this kid. They want to get him the ball as much as they can, and if I was Steve Spurrier, I know he's not a big Wildcat guy.
Yeah.
You know, he likes to throw the ball. I get that kid in the shotgun. If he can throw it at all, he could be dangerous in the Wildcat.
Well, absolutely, and I think that's something that eventually they might toy around with. This game has been a little bit closer than maybe they had hoped. So it's been Garcia all the way. Plenty of time. Again, going home run ball to Brown at the 15 and out of bounds at the 12. Mo Brown with a 24-yard reception after a 40-yarder on the last drive.
Another great throw by Stephen Garcia. He has time in the pocket. If you're a quarterback and you have this much time, you should be accurate. And he floats it over the DB there. Perfect pass to Mo Brown, and good game.
Now to the ground, it's Brian Maddox plowing ahead inside the 10 and down near the 5-yard line. Leon Smith, the freshman, on the tackle. Now this Gamecock offense has kicked it into high gear here in the third quarter.
Well, and I think you feel a little bit of the air coming out of the balloon for this SC State team. That missed third down conversion on the last drive really hurt them, and now this defense is tired.
Maddox behind DeMarco, the blocking fullback, and there's a procedure penalty right there. Looked like the right guard. That would be T.J. Johnson, 55. We'll see what the referee has to say.
Prior to the snap, false start. Number 57 of the offense, 5-yard penalty from the previous 5.
That would be on the center, Lemuel Jean-Pierre. No excuse for that, is there, Brian?
Yeah, I don't know how you can be off. He's a left guard, so he must have twitched or something there.
Yeah, he's at left guard now. Jean-Pierre also backs up at center right now. Anderson in at center, second down. Garcia looking end zone, just out of the reach. That was Alshon Jeffrey, the intended target. He is a young man they are very high on. A 6'3 freshman who originally signed with Southern Cal.
Well, they have a distinct height advantage. Alshon Jeffrey, 6'3". Samaj Moody, number 39, is only 5'9". Just got to keep the ball in play a little bit there. Let him go up and get it. If you throw it short, you at least get pass interference. Just don't throw it long.
So third down and 6. The ball is at the 9. Garcia, end zone again. Brown, got it! Touchdown! Second score of the night for the senior Mo Brown. And Stephen Garcia and Mo Brown are on the same page here in this third quarter.
Well, Mo Brown, the senior, does a great job. The patient, he sticks his route at the top, and that's where he gets that separation on Hamlin, the best player for SC State. Great play by Mo Brown, but patience was what got him open.
Lanning tacks on the extra point. And Stephen Garcia heating up here in the second half as it's 31-7. Mo Brown, 6 grabs, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
And you see Steve Spurrier right there saying, you know what, Mo? That was a great job. Just like we practiced yesterday, take your time at the top of your route. That's how you get separation, and that's the only way that you learn that is through experience.
So a penalty flag on the extra point. They're going to have to do it again. That man very happy, much happier than he was in the first half. If you joined us late, the Gamecock offense really sputtered in the first half. Stephen Garcia throwing for less than 50 yards and has heated up here in the third quarter. And on the second attempt from 5 yards back, Lanning is true. Brett Favre takes snaps against Green Bay for the first time on ESPN's Monday Night Football as Aaron Rodgers and the Packers head to the Metrodome to take on Adrian Peterson and the Minnesota Vikings. Packers-Vikings on ESPN's Monday Night Football at 8:30 Eastern. Coverage beginning with Monday Night Countdown, served by Applebee's at 7 o'clock Eastern.
What a great matchup this is going to be on Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers has become the man in Green Bay, but the old man's coming back. But Aaron Rodgers has not thrown an interception since week 16 of last season, 148 attempts. That's why he's got this Green Bay team in position. And I think they're going to win, honestly.
Do you really?
I think that Green Bay is going to play hard for Aaron Rodgers. The old man's coming back to play his old team. But I think this team loves this kid, and he's going to be a superstar in the NFL. He's got all the tools, and he's got that team behind him 100%.
You know, as if that game didn't need enough hype going in the week before, Brett Favre, as the clock is winding down, throws a game-winning touchdown pass to win it. So plenty of anticipation for that matchup, no doubt about it.
Well, it's classic Brett Favre, but this should be a great game Monday night. Green Bay's defense is better than people realize, so he won't have an easy go of it.
The Gamecocks leading this game by just 3 points, 10-7 at halftime. But the offense has opened up here in the third quarter. Kickoff is fielded at the 5. Reversing field at the 20 is Trey Young, and he's smothered right there after a return of 15 yards. Well, South Carolina wanted to get out to a better start in this ball game. Steve Spurrier's been a little bit critical of his own team in matchups like this for kind of sputtering out of the gate. That happened again tonight, but the good news for Steve and company is that Stephen Garcia has looked very sharp in this third quarter. The Gamecocks have been able to get the ground game going as well, and now we'll see if the Bulldogs can rally. You know they're going to be pinning their ears back, guys like Norwood, Devin Taylor and company, but look at the hole there for Will Ford as he thrusts forward for a gain of 18 yards.
Well, there's no quitting this kid right here, number 28. He is going to fight till the end, and a great hole. Good job by the offensive line. Too much for South Carolina's defense to give up that play.
A gaping hole up the middle. Nice cut down tackle by Stephon Gilmore. And that might be the final play of the third quarter. Clock ticks down. 15 more minutes to play here in Columbia. The Gamecocks with a very productive third quarter. Now on top, 31-7. Cocky bringing everything in here at Williams-Brice Stadium. He's had a busy night tonight. I can tell you when the power went out outside, Cocky was still going strong. The batteries never die for Cocky, nor that fine automobile that he's able to drive. The Bulldogs going to the ground. Will Ford starting to heat up. Ford lowers the shoulder and gets shoved out of bounds after a gain of about 9 yards. Ford, before that carry, needed 18 yards to reach the 4,000-yard plateau, so he's well on his way. Second down and 4 yards to go now. Bulldogs will spread it out. Malcolm Long looking over the middle, completes the pass at midfield. That's Terrence Smith. He's had a busy night tonight.
You know, it was an interesting thing last night talking with Ellis Johnson. He runs a different kind of defense here in South Carolina. It's a 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. Now, you might say, why don't you just run the ball against that defense because you only have 2 linebackers and 5 DBs? Well, he does it because of the advent of the spread offense. There's so many different spread teams now that you can't substitute, so he just keeps his nickel package on the field.
Ellis Johnson working in the booth, the man who calls the plays for this defense, as Ford picks up a modest gain. Ellis Johnson, he's been around the block a while. He's coached at Alabama, was part of those great Gene Stallings teams in the early 90s, was a head coach at the Citadel for a while, also an assistant at Clemson for a time, and he really has made a big difference already in his second year at the helm of this defense. And Ellis actually coached Buddy Pugh's son at the Citadel when Buddy Pugh was.
I hope he treated him well.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. Ellis Johnson, the former head coach at the Citadel, and Buddy Pugh's son over there. And again, Ellis Johnson, you listen to him talk defense, Brian, and the guy is just a wealth of knowledge. There's a deflected pass, and it's picked off by who else? Eric Norwood, second pick of the year. Eric getting a little fancy now. He's running in one big circle. I don't know if he gained any yards, but it was fun to watch. Penalty flag on the field. Clifton Gathers deflecting that pass.
He showed a little wiggle there, didn't he? He's going to do everything for this team, and great job by Clifton Gathers getting to the quarterback and tipping this football here, right there. And you just be in the right place at the right time. And we talk about this kid and his hustle, but I tell you, he got a little prime time here. He got the ball in his hands, and he wanted to do something special.
Number 96 of the return team. 10-yard penalty from the end of the run. First down.
Well, that was a busy play for Clifton Gathers. He caused the interception with the deflection, then guilty of the illegal block. But Eric Norwood, another interception. Young man who does a little bit of everything. And, going back to Ellis Johnson when he talked about Eric Norwood, and here's a guy who's coached some incredible players, says he's the most versatile player that he's ever coached.
And the thing I really liked about what he said is this is an intelligent kid. He's going to be a high draft pick come next year, but he has an opportunity to be a special player because he's intelligent, understands the football game.
On first down, Gamecocks going to the ground. Nothing doing on that play. Gamecocks leading 31-7. Steven Garcia getting off to a slow start, but you see in the second half, very accurate, 2 touchdown passes, and both the TDs to Mo Brown right on the money.
Yeah, he really was. He had time. The protection was good up front, and when you have time in the pocket as a quarterback, you can make plays down the field.
Not much there for Kenny Miles. It'll be third and long. Julius Wilkerson on the tackle.
I really believe that, to have success in the SEC as a quarterback, you're going to have to be able to weather some storms. I mean, their defenses in the SEC are so good that you are going to have adversity at times. And Steven Garcia has to realize that you need to weather those storms and not make the terrible, catastrophic play. Just get through it, and you can make some plays later on in the game.
Well, the big thing that Steve Spurrier keeps going back to, he's limiting mistakes. Just 2 interceptions on the year through 4 and almost 5 games now. Garcia has time, delivers a strike, complete at the 30 and cut down at the 35. That is Dion LaCorn, well shy of the marker, and the Gamecocks will likely punt it away. Gamecocks will bring out the punting unit for one of the rare times in this ball game tonight, particularly in the second half. South Carolina State not completely out of it yet, but the Bulldogs are going to have to start making some big plays in a hurry. That's a look at G.A. Mangus. talking with Stephen Garcia. G.A. Mangus is a quarterback's coach that Steve Spurrier brought in almost to block on the punt. And a fair catch called at the 25. 10:55 remaining. Gamecocks on top 31-7.
There for you when you're in a tight spot.
Yes. No. Okay. Yes.
3 wides to the right side, 1 to the left.
What does greatness taste like?
Steps up, heaves the ball.
With Brian Greasy, I'm Mike Morgan, and you're watching the SEC on ESPN. Fourth quarter action, the Gamecocks leading it 31-7 over the Bulldogs of SC State. Good run here by the second quarterback for this offensive attack. That's Derek Wiley. Demario Jeffrey, the freshman, on the stop. We haven't seen a whole lot of Derek Wiley in this game, but they like to use him in some of those Wildcat formations.
Yeah, I know. Talking to Coach Pugh, he likes this kid. He's just a redshirt freshman. He's young, but he's getting some good experience here in this stadium against a great defense in SC, and it looks like he's going to stay in for a little while. Malcolm Young's got his helmet off on the sideline over there.
First down and 10 from the 38. The lefty fires complete to Thomas Williams. Malcolm Long was very impressive in the first half, but this Gamecock defense, they make adjustments and they can humble you, Brian.
They certainly do, and Ellis Johnson only took him a half, but he got a beat on this state defense or offense, and started to come after him a little bit, put a little pressure, did really well in containing Long in the second half.
Ellis Johnson, who grew up 30 miles from Columbia. His wife is actually from Columbia, South Carolina. And they have found a home in Columbia. And Ellis Johnson certainly making his impact very early on with head coach Steve Spurrier. Clifton gathers another tackle there for the Gamecock defense. I like what Ellis Johnson said in our meeting the other day, Brian, and that, you know, he's not married to any particular scheme. That very often the scheme is overrated. You play with the personnel that you got and you adjust accordingly.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be confined to any one defense, and I think that's smart. As long as you're not a master of try to be a master of a lot of things. You do one thing and do it well. Sometimes that's a better approach.
On third down, pass is wide of the mark, and the Bulldogs will have to send the punting unit back out. That was Malcolm Long, incidentally, back in the game. And they might go for it here. Nope. I think Buddy Pugh thought about it for a moment, but he's going to send out the punting unit after all. Stephon Gilmore back to receive the punt. Hakeem Auguste was suspended for this game, so he has not been back there tonight. But Gilmore, a talented freshman, has done a fine job. Fair catch. Coming up after the break, we'll take a look at play number 24 of the Buffalo Wild Wings' top 30 plays of the last 30 years.
So you're confirming his return, or you're not?
A full moon out tonight. The Gamecocks, after a dominating third quarter, on top now 31-7. Time now for our Buffalo Wild Wings top 30 play of the game. It's number 24.
Buffalo Wild Wings presents the top 30 plays of the last 30 years. Number 24, punting late in a tied game versus Clemson. Florida State instead called Punt-Ruski. The ball was snapped to up-back Dean Williams, who then slipped it between the legs of Leroy Butler. Butler rushed 78 yards to set up the game-winning field goal for the Seminoles, and the Punt-Ruski was born. Follow the top 30 countdown all season long. Brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings.
And look who's in now for South Carolina. That is the backup quarterback, Reed McCullum, he's only thrown one pass this entire season. He's a redshirt freshman out of Somerville, and this is a guy they really want to get some work. First play, an end around. Mo Brown's big-time second half continues. 21 more yards for Mo Brown.
This is a great opportunity for Steve Spurrier and this team to get some experience for Reed McCullum. But you see here, Mo Brown, he's still in the game. He wants to play every snap he can. The senior, the captain of this offense, he wants to make as many plays as he can. But a good chance in the second half here for Reed McCullum to get some snaps under his belt. There's just no substitute for experience, and they may need him down the road this year if something happens to Steven Garcia.
He's got great size. He's got a lively arm. He's just has no experience up to this point. Finds DeMarco in the flat. And Patrick DeMarco dives forward for a couple. Patrick DeMarco, whose cousin is in the Baltimore Orioles organization. Of course, his uncle is Chris DeMarco of the PGA. Grandfather actually played hoops at St. John's. So you want to talk about an athletic family. Patrick DeMarco is part of one.
And he picked the most physical of all of them. He should have got a golf club in his hand.
Something tells me he can hit them pretty well. Second down, 7 yards to go. McCullum feeds Giles. A couple more yards there. It'll set up a third down and 3. Reed McCullum, incidentally, played for the legendary John McKissick, where he led Somerville to the state championship as a senior. And I think even if you're not from the state of South Carolina, if you follow high school football, you've probably heard that name, John McKissick. He's won just an absolute ton of ball games, one of the greatest high school football coaches of all time. Of course, so they're crazy about their football here in the state of South Carolina. 2 Division I programs, South Carolina and Clemson, and 7 more FCS schools right now. Giles wiggles his way to the 45-yard line. That will be a first down, 5 yards on that scamper.
You may not think that this is valuable time, but for these guys, these young people on the South Carolina team, some of these freshmen, Jarvis Giles and redshirt freshman Reed McCullum, these are snaps that they need. They have a lot of young players on this team. Steve Spurrier was telling us only 9 returning seniors, second fewest in the NCAA behind Boise State. They need this time to get ready.
On first down, McCullum fires short, intended for Alshon Jeffrey. Well, it's Steven Garcia, then Reed McCullum. They've got a third stringer who's never thrown a pass, in Aramis Hillary. So these are, like you said, Brian, very valuable snaps for a guy in McCullum who, at any moment, his number can be called. We saw that violent hit that Garcia took last week against Ole Miss. You never know.
Well, especially with a guy that likes to run the football like Steven Garcia does. I mean, he's run for 136 yards and 32 times already this year. So he's going to get hit in the SEC. It's just going to happen. And this kid has got to be ready to step up and play.
Incomplete pass there, intended for D.L. Moore. Well, Steven Garcia's day, a good one. Started off slow, got this 1-yard plunge into the end zone, but the passing was kind of shoddy in the first half, picked it up in the second half as he got on the same page as Mo Brown, his senior target. That was the first touchdown. And here's a look at number 2. And Steven Garcia enjoying life tonight. No turnovers for Garcia. And a couple of touchdown passes right on the money. Third down and 10. The Bulldogs the Gamecocks 7 of 12 on third. McCullum buying time, fires, and somehow the pass is caught. Threw it right into traffic. And that's complete to the tight end, Justice Cunningham.
Showing some good mobility here, getting outside of the pocket. Keep your eyes down the field. Now be careful throwing the ball back across the field like that.
Number 4 of the defense, 15-yard penalty from the end of the run. First down.
That's a shot right there.
That's a little frustration from Irby, the linebacker. You know, these kids wanted to come out from South Carolina State and play well tonight. It's tough. You know, these kids, they play hard, they work hard, they practice, and then they get embarrassed a little bit, 31-7. They want to take out a little bit of frustration. But Coach Buddy Pugh, I know, will have a few words for his young linebacker.
7 penalties, 57 yards now for the Bulldogs. McCollum with an audible. Here comes the blitz, throwing toward the end zone. Touchdown! Alshon Jeffrey from 20 yards out. The first touchdown pass of Reed McCollum's career. Not bad work for the backup, Brian Griese.
Well, he's having a good time, and I would love to sit up here and say what a great throw by Reed McCollum, but this was just a case where he threw the ball up, and his young freshman, Alshon Jeffrey, went up and took it away. Great play by Jeffrey.
Jeffrey was a great basketball star. Calhoun County, and he used some of his hops right there. The extra point is good. The Gamecocks now leading it 38-7. Reed McCollum finds.
ESPN Films 30 for 30 starts Tuesday, 8 p.m. on ESPN.
When I think of value, I think of Wrangler. Always have.
Successful scoring drive for the Gamecocks. 8 plays, 78 yards, and a special moment for Reed McCollum.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for him to get in this game, get some meaningful snaps, and then to throw a touchdown on top of it is kind of the cherry on top of the pie.
Young on the return across the 30 and down at the 32. It's a great look of this touchdown pass right here.
Yeah, it's, you know, you learn as a quarterback to, if you get a big wide receiver like Alshon Jeffrey, 6'3", give him a chance to go up and make the catch over a smaller DB, and then if you're going to throw a touchdown pass, you got to have a good handshake, right?
How long did it take him to work on that, I wonder? Choreographed already. Did you have one of those at Michigan?
No, I can't say that I did, but I didn't throw a touchdown when I was a redshirt freshman either. It took me a while.
Do you remember your first touchdown pass? Who was it against?
Oh, actually, no, I don't remember.
I'm putting you on the spot. This is your life, Brian Griese.
I bet Reed remembers this one.
Quarterback keeper. And brought down in a hurry. Wiley is in at quarterback for South Carolina State. The Bulldogs in danger of losing their first game of the year, but certainly they can come into a game like this, a nothing-to-lose attitude. They gave the Gamecocks a bit of a scare in the first half, and they still have some very large aspirations on their mind and trying to win back-to-back MEAC titles. That hasn't happened in over 2 decades at South Carolina State, and trying to make the playoffs again at the FCS level. Second down and 8. Good second effort by Jamison, and he's got first down yardage.
These SC State kids have nothing to be ashamed about. They played their hearts out tonight, and they came in, they didn't want to play to lose. They wanted to let it all hang out, and guys like Will Ford and running back here, Travel Jamison, they're still playing hard. They have a lot to learn from this football game, and they'll take this film next week, learn from it, get better, and then go back to competing. They're ranked 14th in the standings in FCS right now. They still have their entire season ahead of them. So they'll keep their heads high after this football game.
Well, it's just a great opportunity to be able to play at an SEC venue, and it means so much to these young men, many of which grew up in the state of South Carolina, many of which grew up fans of the South Carolina Gamecocks. One of the things Buddy Pugh told us is that, you know, the big break for him was when Fisher DeBerry, then the coach at Air Force, scheduled a game. It was the first ever 1A opponent. And after that happened, they were starting to get some other folks like a Clemson, like a South Carolina on the schedule. And certainly it helps for the exposure, and it helps the program overall. Second down and 4 for the Bulldogs. Buddy Pugh has done a heck of a job for this program in the 8 years he's been there. His first down yardage, that's Linnell Elmore. We have not called his name tonight. Nicknamed Superman back in high school, as he was a great 3 sports star, an 11-yard reception there.
And just like Reed McCollum came in to the game and got meaningful snaps, Derek Wiley is now getting some meaningful snaps for State, and this is a situation for him against a great defense, a good test not only for him but for the other guys on this offense, maybe some of the other backups, to go against one of the best defenses in the SEC and see where you stack up.
On first down, burrowing his way for a couple for South Carolina State. That is Jamison again. Next up for this Gamecock team, it'll be another home matchup. Gamecocks will take on the Kentucky Wildcats. Kentucky falling to Alabama earlier tonight. And yeah, the SEC might be on a collision course right now for Alabama and Florida to meet in Atlanta. On 2nd and 8, Jamison again, wrapped up for a modest gain. Let's take a look at the South Carolina upcoming schedule.
Yeah, you see here, I mean, obviously the big win last week versus Ole Miss puts them in good position in the SEC, and they're going to find out in 2 weeks what kind of football team they really have when they go to Tuscaloosa. And I will be interested to see how Stephen Garcia manages against one of the best, if not the best, defense in the country. And then, as you see at the end of the year against Florida, typically in the last 2 years, this South Carolina team has not finished their seasons well. Last year they lost the last 3 games of the season and lost in the bowl game to Iowa. Just haven't finished seasons well.
3rd down and first down yardage as Jamison breaks a couple of tackles, still on his feet, and finally dragged down at the 6-yard line. You know, just to add to your point, Brian, absolutely right. I mean, when you look at what South Carolina's been able to do, plenty of good starts the last few years. The last 2 years, 13-4 combined to start, and then finishing 0-8, and some of those 8 losses were frankly blowouts. So I think Steve Spurrier is trying to stress to his team, look, it's not enough to get off to a good start. We've got to play 12 complete football games.
Part of that is the schedule, but another big part of it is an attitude, and I think that's what they're trying to change here. These kids are talking about the new Carolina. What is the new Carolina? Well, they want to finish games. They want to finish the season, give maximum effort every single snap, and don't take anything for granted. That's what Eric Norwood represents. That's what Cliff Matthews represents on the defensive side of the football. And that's the only way they're going to change the perception of this program, is to fight for 60 minutes and finish seasons.
2nd down and goal. Bulldogs trying to get one more score before this one ends. That's a live football, and it's picked up by South Carolina. All the way down inside the 35. That is Tony Strawder. Tony Strawder, the junior out of Madison, Florida, a 57-yard return. Everybody just kind of stopped on this play, Brian.
It looked like Derek Wiley had a little bit of a trouble getting the handoff right here to Jamison. Didn't know whether he should take it or keep it. And then he just stripped it out. I think it was Geathers that stripped it out, and what an opportunity for Strawder.
Well, it wouldn't be a college football game without a replay.
The previous play is under further review.
I don't think a whole lot is on the line here. Devin Taylor stripping the football in a big-time return by Strawder. Timeout on the field. 23 ticks left. The Gamecocks on top. Well, while we were away, they reversed the call. The runner was down, and here's why.
Yeah, it looked like he just had a miscommunication on whether to hand the ball off, but Wiley ends up keeping it, and then Mika's butt hits the ground right there, and he's down, and then the ball comes out.
Butt equals a knee? Is that the ruling on that one?
Yep. That's equal body parts.
Gotcha. So it's 3rd down and goal from the 6. Bulldogs trying to get one last score before this night is through. Long, complete at the 1, and he stood up there. The Bulldogs can call a timeout. They've got 3 left. That was Matt Washington on the reception.
And they put Malcolm Long back in at quarterback. You think Buddy Pugh's not a competitor? he wants to put that ball in the end zone. He puts his starting quarterback in to throw that pass.
A 30-second timeout.
You know, this game actually already marks kind of a significant accomplishment for South Carolina State. They had never scored a touchdown against an FBS opponent coming in. They got a chance at a second one here. 10 seconds left in this ball game. Brett Favre takes snaps against Green Bay for the first time on ESPN's Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers head to the Metrodome to take on Adrian Peterson and the Minnesota Vikings. Packers-Vikings on ESPN's Monday Night Football at 8:30. And Brian, as a former quarterback, you love to see great ones play, and got a couple of good ones on Monday night.
Yeah, you've got the old versus the new, and a lot of history between these two guys. They were friends in Green Bay. You know, a lot of people make more out of the situation than there was, but these two guys were friends, and it'll be interesting to see how loud that Metrodome is. That's the loudest stadium I've ever played in the NFL, is that Metrodome, and it'll be rocking on Monday night.
4th down and goal from the 1 could be the final play, and it's a touchdown. Malcolm Long finding some daylight behind the left side of his offensive line. And the Bulldogs now have 2 touchdowns in this game and against Division 1A opponents. It's got to feel good for Malcolm Long.
Yeah, I think this is a good way to end this football game for South Carolina State. And now Malcolm Long gets his 2nd touchdown. He's a big kid, 235 pounds, but they can build off this. As we said, this is not an easy place to play, and really nobody expected them to win, but for them to come in and score 2 touchdowns, and Malcolm Long play well in the first half, really played well the entire game and scored 2 touchdowns. They can build on this, and they'll regroup next week and get back into the meat of their schedule, and I expect them to compete for the MEAC championship again.
Well, no question. I don't think they did anything to damage their reputation tonight. Again, on the road, SEC opponent. Only trailed by 3 at the half. I think Buddy Pugh overall will be satisfied with his team's performance.
And you got to tip your hat to Coach Pugh to put these games on the schedule, knowing that he's getting basically the leftovers from Clemson, South Carolina, other ACC and SEC teams to come to South Carolina State. But these kids are good football players, and they just play in a different division. But for them to put this game on the schedule really says a lot about Coach Pugh and the program, because they know this is going to give them an opportunity to show what they have against one of the best teams in the country and on a big stage.
Now South Carolina State might go for the onside kick here. There's 4 seconds left. I don't know if you've got time to recover a kick and run a play, but sometimes you can recover a kick and take it all the way. Crazier things have happened. The Gamecocks are going to improve to 4-1, which when you consider who they played, I'd say that's the kind of start that Steve Spurrier would be more than happy to take. And it's going to be a squibber fielded at the 25. This will be the final play of the game. And Culver still on his feet before finally going down. Entertaining ball game. It was a 3-point game at the half. The Bulldogs gave everything they had, but in the end, Brian, that 3rd quarter was the difference. Stephen Garcia, Mo Brown got hot and never looked back.
They really exploded in the 3rd quarter, and good job by this South Carolina team not coming into this game and having a hangover from last week, beating Ole Miss in a big game. So now they can look forward to the rest of their SEC schedule.
Players shaking hands, many of them which know each other from the high school ranks in the state of South Carolina. The Gamecocks winning this one by a final score of 38-14. They'll get ready to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. Once again, it's been our pleasure to bring you SEC football here on ESPN. For our producer, Brett Walensky, our director, Scott Katz, and the rest of our great crew, Mike Morgan saying so long. Brian Griese, enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. So long, everybody, from Columbia, where the Gamecocks win it big.